Hey, good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a good afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. I wanted to jump on for a moment to talk about some thoughts that came up today while I was trading the one of the systems that I've shown you all here, the trend trading range bar system, because of how much of the trading today was really determined by context primarily. Um, and a lot of that then goes into the way we understand the signals in that context. And that has to do with the research process that we go through in developing the system. So, as always, feel free to drop comments and ask me anything as we get going. But the idea for today is to examine the thinking in terms of uh, deciding how to take signals and then how to manage them. So, and how to take signals. Let me share my screen. And there we go. So, how to take signals? When I say that, what I mean is that every trend resumption signal could, in the right context, be a fade signal or a do nothing signal. In this context today, there were a lot of context conditions which uh, suggested that some of the trend resumption signals that this system generates based on the bar by bar analysis were not high probability signals. So we can see here on the open, well, we know that most opening breakouts reverse. So, and this has there were a few things about this one that suggested there was a high probability of reversal. This is why Brad always says, you know, you typically want to wait 6 to 12 bars before trading, just because the market is so prone to reversals on the open. Certainly until you've studied the open and are comfortable managing your signals, through that lens of the high probability reversal. So in this case, there were a number of context items that suggested the trend resumption trade here was not a high probability signal. And so this is a trend signal. This is a trend signal. And this is a micro channel signal, the orange here. Now, under normal conditions, uh, micro channel, and then with a gap here, which you can see. I think I have the gap indicator loaded. Yeah, so the gap here, which is part of this channel. So that would, under non-opening range or opening breakout conditions, be a high probability trend resumption signal. However, we know that the market has upwards of a 90% chance of testing the Globex high or low. And here, it is basically a cell vacuum test down to the Globex low. There also the 200 EMA is there as well. I don't have that on right now. Let me see. Is that here? No, that's a overlay. All right. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and add it now. But it was right down here. So in any case, on the open, there were a number of items here at the lows that suggested trading for trend resumption was a low probability signal. So all of these signals being low probability for major extension. Also, both of these were high z-score bars, so big breakout bars. Big breakout bar with big breakout follow through is typically climactic behavior. Climactic behavior is something we see also in vacuum tests of support and resistance. So here we get that on the opening drive down, and then strong reversal. and strong reversal testing the bear breakout of a bad signal bar on bar 1, which of course all of the bulls who bought below there get out because they probably scaled in at Globex lows or below the 4-bar opening drive, so getting out there, and so you see the pullback. But at this point, there are a number of context items that suggest the trend resumption to retest the lows is actually not a high probability trade. There are 2 items which are most important. So if you do a context study, one of the things that you'll find is that when gaps are less than, when they're not very large, and this very large is, there's a spectrum of not very large, but basically if they're less than 35 to 40% of the average daily range, then you're looking at upwards of a 60% chance that the opening gap will close. That goes up significantly if the market is going to close inside of the Globex range. So if and you can see Globex high is basically here right at the close of yesterday, or the close of Friday, as it may be. So by this point, the odds are pretty low that we're going to have a big breakout and close below the Globex low here. And so if that's the case, then closing within the Globex range significantly increases the probability of closing this opening gap. And if that's a higher probability trade, then this opening drive is probably going to be completely reversed, and we'll go to close this gap. However, then once you get a very large opening range, and so I consider the opening range the first 12 bars of trade. Once you've, if the opening range is a large percentage of the average daily range, then you typically don't see big breakouts of either the opening range highs. So like a bull measured move up or a bear measured move down. And so today, we got breakouts of both, but neither of the measured moves got hit. So this was when bar 12 closed. This was your 50% extension of the opening 12-bar range. And this was your bear extension of the opening 12-bar range. So neither of those came anywhere close to being hit. And a lot of that, the probability for that occurring was skewed by the range, the width of the opening range. So by the time bar 12 closes, obviously they're very close to reaching the gap close. And there have been a number of good trend resumption signals, like the breakout above this bad buy signal high, first the immediate rejection here, and then breakout of both this the sellers who faded that, anticipating that bulls would get out. That failed, got trend resumption, and those sellers there never got to get out break even until bar 19. So there were a number of conditions here that when we got this pullback into the big bar 11 breakout, that a 50% pullback was a high probability trend resumption trade for the gap close. Then you can see the system here with sell signals above both of these bars because of the trading range behavior here. Those were better signals, so they didn't require inverse thinking or fading the signal. But by the time you get down and the double top, there were a number of context items in here that suggested it was unlikely to get that bull measured move up there. And if that's unlikely, then higher probability is that it's going to be a trending trading range day within the Globex range and within the opening range. And then the next thing that I do is to look at the various support and resistance levels within the opening range that were generated by failed setups that could be tested. So obviously the first one was here, and that was tested on the single cell vacuum bar there. Then after that, the failed breakout of these highs. So this was actually, if you look at this signal, the signal was never, if you placed your order one tick above here to fade, then no one, all of the bears there never got filled. So those bears got filled here, and they got a second sell signal here. So then the higher probability is for at least a retest of this higher trading range lows. But there's substantial momentum on the way down. We have lower lows from bar 25. I'm sorry, lower highs from bar 25 to 33. So for 8 bars, lower highs, and only one inside bar that whole time. 2 inside bars. So this is a strong bear leg. It could reverse, but it's also the first time that bears have broken substantially below the EMA after you have your test, your gap bar here, retest of the highs, and now breakout back below the EMA. In Systems Academy, one of the things that we talk about when thinking about regime is that when a regime flips, you typically don't see it flip back immediately. And so going from obviously, this is all bull regime on the daily time frame, which is one of the reasons why you get meaningful bull legs that are tradable, even when you're having strong bear activity. But so here, bull breakout and pullback, even strong cell vacuum pullback gets a retest, right? Because this is the first transition into a bull regime. Unlikely for one bar to flip it back to a bear regime. So then retest of the highs, and context overrules any potential for continuation there, and then the return back to a bear regime. This is not enough to flip it to a bull regime. As you can see, this breakout here is characteristically different than this breakout here. But here is one bar with no continuation, no continuation, no continuation, and then reversal versus one bar and 2, 3, 4, and arguably 5 with the inside bar of continuation. So this is not flipping the regime. This is an attempt, but it doesn't. So then the reversal here becomes a high probability trend resumption trade. And back here at the lows, again, context overrules all of the apparent bear strength, because we know that the probability of getting a big breakout lower is low and starting to generate trading range signals, as we see here. And so the reason for the stream today is because I was looking at this breakout here, and then this breakout here. And I think that a lot of folks who would be looking for kind of just a signal generator are often misled by the kind of confidence that a signal produces, right? It says, do this. And signals can't be treated as that black and white because they have to be passed through a context filter. Or, I mean, I guess they can be taken that black and white, but if they are, then you're going to degrade the performance of your system because you're deferring a lot of that, the human engagement with the market to the binary, non-context-based algorithm. So here, this is a strong breakout, bar by bar breakout, but below the opening drive low, and it's a micro channel with a gap. And so one of the items that I found in my research of gaps, of micro gaps, is micro gaps that appear in legs 3 are typically much lower probability, and certainly micro gaps that appear in climactic legs are much lower probability for trend resumption. So here, micro gap in leg 3, reversal back above the opening low, and trading range behavior again. So yeah, these are the trend resumption signals that I have to ignore from the system. And then once you get the full reversal and here breakout, you can buy below lows, scale in. I don't trade any of this, but I wanted to just share my observations or my thinking about context and kind of the primacy of it, because um, when doing initial signal research, I think it's important to generate signals without necessarily thinking about context, but then understanding how those signals behave within the context that the market provides gives us the nuance for understanding whether to take them for their intended setup. So, like, there are times when, for example, here's a buy below. It's not a fade signal, but it's a buy below, a bull bar, when this is not a high probability trade, even though it is a buy in trading range. Right? This is a tight trading range after a bear trend. So not a high probability signal. These can still be taken, but they need to be taken at measured moves lower. So you would only take a signal like that if the context were good for slightly more downside, but then so that would be your measured move entry here, and then you would get out at the lows here. So I mean that trade worked. It was not the better trade. The better trade is looking for the pull back into this bar and then sell for trend resumption based on context. So this was just to share some ideas about context and how you might think about it in terms of the signals that you all are trading. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to discuss about the systems that you all are trading, I'd be happy to discuss the way that you're thinking about your work and any research you're currently doing. There's a lot of kind of organizing and digesting of data that you can pull from a signal study that will actually lead you to really useful market research. And the market research is what goes into the context and then better understanding how to select and manage the signals. So even if you took the signals that failed, most gave you the opportunity to get out without a loss. I think this is the only, well, selling here, selling above, getting out. No, you could have gotten out of most of these without a loss. I think this is the only one that would have been trouble. I mean, unless you held for the whole move up, and I wouldn't do that. For example, if I had sold, would have sold. I didn't take this trade, but if I had, it would have been a sell higher. But when this bar broke out that much above the bad buy signal bar, that would have invalidated the sell here. For these kinds of fades, you don't want to see large breakouts go against your position. You want to see the big breakout, but then the sell off and closing with bad signal bars. Here, this is a trend bar. So any trend bars or consecutive closes against a fade signal, I would be out. But that would have been a loss. This is a good example of how you want to see a fade signal behave. So signal, look above, and then back down. Let's see. This one would have been a bad signal, but context again, you wouldn't sell right above it. A lot of the location for fade signals, for counter trend signals, comes down to where you would, based on context, where you believe the support and resistance levels are that will be tested, and then fading from there. So if it is highs of a range, fading above, directly above, is often the best way to take the signals. But here, without a test of the EMA and a trading range sell signal above this bar, you at least want to be selling at a measured move above and then scaling in higher. So if you did that, then you could get out with good profit on both of those, on the this big Z-score bar. So I think that would be it, because even if you sold above here, sold higher, you get out break even on the first and profit on the second. Buying here. Yeah. So in any case, that's what I wanted to share. And again, I'd be happy to take any questions. Well, REITs, I appreciate you checking in stream after stream. It's great to have you here. So I'll give you all another second, and if we don't have any questions, you can feel free to leave the questions on the video, and I'll check in and try to answer them there. The only other observation I would have then about context before I let you all go is, sorry, I'm not sure what system this is. 2EL. Could you explain a bit more about what you mean there? I'd be happy to answer your question, though. The Z-score is just a statistical method for determining difference from a normalized standard deviation. So it's basically measuring deviation from a mean, but it's a standardized mean. So rather than having relatively strong variations between standard deviations, it normalizes them and then measures against that normalized 0 point. So it's more consistent and easier to use. And it can be used in a lot of different ways. I mean, I use it to measure a number of different aspects of the market. So like oh no, sorry, it's not in this one. I'll turn off these. So these are, this is an excess filter. So it looks at excess as a measure of Z-score using some different inputs. And so anytime you have excess, if it's obviously you have to do research on it and understand how the excess operates in different contexts. Again, context is king. But once you understand how excess operates in particular context, then it can be used to improve timing. And Idris, nice to see you here. So yeah, the excess is just a way of helping to understand whether the market might be overcommitted in a direction. And I like to use Z-score to do that measurement. So I hope that answers your question, Hardy. Okay, so yeah, second entry systems. Let me see. Let's see here. So second entry systems are trend resumption systems, right? Because it's assuming that you're going to have continuation in the direction of however you're measuring the impulsive leg that's defining the second entry opportunity. The system that I trade is not necessarily. I mean, it's both. It's a mean reversion and it's a trend resumption system. So it's basically looking at both sides of the market based on whether it determines a higher probability for trend or trading range behavior. And so, like, for example, if you were counting legs, then you'd have leg one, but then this is a leg count reset. So this is a big leg one, leg two, leg three. So this is a small wedge, micro wedge up here, retest of leg two low, and the trapped sellers here above 7, and then retest of the high. So then you have your double top here. if you were taking this whole leg as so rather than um, this including this micro wedge here, which is 3 legs after this large leg, impulsive leg. But if you were just looking all of this as one leg, then this is basically a 50% pullback of this whole move. So then that's one of the reasons why this operates as a larger leg one, leg two, and gives you the opportunity to, and you could call it scalp, but my scalping is like 1 to 2 bars. So this would be, you would want to be holding for at least 3 of those, 4 bars. And probably, at least I usually don't like to buy just the sell vacuum test. Usually like to at least wait 1 bar and then buy below the follow through bar or the failed follow through bars. So like here, this is a failed follow through bar, another failed follow through bar, and it has a sell signal above it. So I would be starting to sell here and sell higher. So I hope that answers your question about second leg entries. But the signals for second legs and the idea of the second leg is obviously a trend resumption system, but there's a lot of contexts in which a second leg trend resumption system is actually generating low probability signals, such as here at the lows. This is, as you can see from the excess indicator based on Z-score, that the market's displaying excess here at the lows, excess here at the highs. This is a large leg down with excess, but it's also, as we discussed earlier, the first flip of regime to a bear regime. And so the excess is more likely to resolve with sideways trade and trend resumption rather than a reversal, as it does when you get excess in leg threes. So excess in leg ones is different than excess in leg threes, as we can. So I would argue that this is leg one, a leg count reset, sideways trend resumption, and then excess in this is leg two, leg three, and then micro wedge down here. So excess here is starting to show that the market is overcommitted, and then your sideways turns into reversal versus sideways that turns into trend resumption. And you can see this happen often. So here again, you get breakout, leg count reset, sideways, and trend resumption. Even here, excess, sideways, breakout, and then you end up with reversal and sideways into the end of day. This was that wacky day, the 1% day that didn't touch the EMA. Here's another excess, sideways, trend resumption. But again, here, then you get your excess in leg three and reversal into the next day. So I hope that answers your question about trend resumption systems. Context filters for buy the close, sell the close at the open. I do not buy the close and sell the close at the open. So if there is a buy the close or sell the close trade that works at the open, I just let it go. And I typically look to those levels for support and resistance as the opening range develops. I mean, the odds are low that you're going to have a trend from the open. And if you do, then there's going to be plenty of opportunities later in the day. I find it much higher probability that buying or selling the close during the open results in a reversal and the need to scale in and spend time managing a position when you could be a bit more attentive and just patient. And I find that if I am buying or selling the close during the open, it typically means that I'm being impatient, and that's not a good thing for me. If I see any signs that I'm being impatient, typically I'll actually walk away for a while because those are the scenarios when I end up in positions that I have to manage my way out of versus just being able to respond to what the market's doing and align with that. So I hope that answers that question. Idris, any questions? How's everything going for you? I'll turn these off. Well, I won't keep you all, but if you do end up with any questions, again, feel free to drop them underneath the video once it's posted, and I'll check back in later on and answer anything there. Nice. Um, yeah, the reversal follow through, especially during the open, that is a very high probability system. So fantastic. All right, folks. Well, have a great evening. Let me stop sharing. All right. So have a great evening. Well, I'll try to jump on again either tomorrow or Friday, probably Friday, just to check in at the end of the week and see how everyone's doing. If anything came up during the interim, and we'll take it from there. All right, everyone. Well, have a good evening, and I'll talk to you all soon. Good night.